My name is Emily, and I go by the DJ tag DJ Emily SBux. I am an open format and house DJ spinning in the GTA and in Toronto, and I'm also a queer person exploring these spaces. It's definitely been a fun ride, you know, being a woman, someone on the LGBTQ spectrum in this industry, nightlife and entertainment, and it's very passion driven. I've had the pleasure of spinning with Pride Toronto for the last 3 years. I've hit up their stages like the Garden Stage, North Stage, Young Dundas Square. I'm just happy to explore what I love to do with the community that I'm from. So I got into DJing pretty fatefully, I want to say. So I used to work at Starbucks, and that's where my DJ name derives from, SBux being an abbreviated trademark-free version of your favorite coffee joint. I was supervising one store at the time, and someone actually came on through the drive-through speaker. Me and this woman were having this pretty playful, I would say pretty flirty banter. She comes up to the window, we end up hitting it off. She gives me her card and it says DJ and producer. And that was super enticing for me growing up, playing different instruments and now having kind of like a new, like an invitation almost to this new music world. I ended up dating that woman for a while, and she was an amazing person in the sense of she really understood the value of empowerment. SBux, S-B-U-X, just like the coffee you know you love. Identity is definitely a super complex issue. It's one of those things that constantly evolves. Who you think you are may not be who people receive you as. Who you are right now could definitely change by the time you are 5 years older, 10 years older. You have a breakup, a life change, I don't know. I just think that identity constantly evolves. When I was coming out of high school, I was so preoccupied and anxious over the idea that A, I need to be accepted, and B, I need to come out and have people know that as my identity. 6 years after that point, it's not even about that specifically, but it's about how are people reading my energy, how are people receiving my actions. Right now I identify as a DJ, I identify as an androgynous woman, I identify as someone who definitely just wants to be loved and appreciated, and I want to give that respect back into the universe. I actually was pretty I don't want to say cool, but generally well liked in school. I was very capable of being very diplomatic, and I don't know if that comes out of the fact that I'm a Capricorn, or the fact that I'm a middle child, or the fact that I'm a woman, or maybe even an empath or highly sensitive, but I just definitely had this underlying sense, almost like a white noise to everything I did as a kid, that I didn't know what it was. And that's also because I didn't have a lot of exposure to LGBT culture. I went to a private Christian school, K-8. I was surrounded by enormous amount of privilege. For me, acceptance was a really big thing from my peers. My best friends really received me very well. They were the first ones to know, the ones in high school, but it wasn't until grade 11 or grade 12. So for me, it was a journey of a lot of denial or repression. But when you have an idea of who you are and you feel like the world isn't seeing that, or you're not showing that very well, there is this uneasiness inside your soul. Happy Pride, everyone. Mental illness started making itself more known to me in my post-secondary studies. I was enrolled at Ryerson University in the journalism program, and as someone who never really had to put too much effort towards my studies in both elementary and high school, and would still get fairly successful results in university, I was failing, For me, the mental illness showed itself in a lot of anxiety, a lot of perfectionism. I had this anxiety about being perfect, and that stopped me from doing it, made me procrastinate. And then I would have either an all-nighter, panicking, finishing something, or not handing in anything. I relied a lot on alcohol, and I maxed out a credit card, on couple of my benders. The second I dealt with alcohol and admitting to myself that I was an alcoholic and I use alcohol to cope with things, and if it were a choice, I would die in it. Like, the second I was honest with myself about that, like, I had so much more control. So Pride Toronto to me means a safe space in Toronto for the X number of blocks that they shut down. I think it's an awesome and amazing excuse for anybody to just jump on and like take a taste of this amazing culture. As a festival, you just have an amazing amount of empowerment and such a big turnout. You have people coming from different countries, you know? I was hanging out with some people from England last year, from Colombia. Toronto is such a multicultural city that I think it makes the experience so much better. For a young queer person to see that turnout, to see that support, it could be a matter of life or death. It could be a matter of, you know, inducing anxiety or triggering someone. I just think that we spend so much time in this world comparing and bringing each other down, and I think Pride, for me, especially in Toronto, has been the one thing that like builds me up, and it gives me enough in my bucket to last till next Pride. At the end of the day, how someone lives, as long as they're not harming you, it shouldn't affect you. Knowing who you are right away is not always a luxury, and this is where privilege comes into play as well. If someone hasn't told you today, like, I accept you and I love you and you are valid, and there's just so much more that we can't even think about right now. Currently, I've been spending the last 4 years DJing, and one thing that I always try to leave on the dance floors that I've had the privilege of spinning is this sense of empowerment. I like to spin uplifting tracks. I like to spin fun throwbacks, and then some dirty and deep tech house. I love being an open format DJ because I love being a well-rounded DJ. It's a way different genre than any kind of other genre. I've had the privilege of going to parties and, like, you know, dancing to. House music has this community behind it, and this 4 on the floor beat that almost, for like the 4 to 6 hours the event is going on, you're in a trance. It's inclusive and it's empowering and it's fun. One thing I had to learn in 6 years is, you know, just be brave enough to face every day. I hope that this reaches someone who's, you know, maybe struggling with who they are and the kind of strength they possess. Maybe it's not gonna happen the way you saw it in your head, but it definitely can happen. And sometimes, I would say most times, the result is way better than you could ever picture it.
This is life in motion, and